Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. We're recording. Yes, love it. Thank you. Caden is my backhand man, helping me with some of the stuff, techie stuff in the back. So we're going to start out with a fun activity. Ready for the podcast launch? So we're going to get into some Q&As later. So I'm not going to, start out with, any kind of story or official introduction. But okay, ready for the main event to start out with? So everybody take out you might be on your phone or your computer or wherever you might look up a podcast. Surprise, surprise, we're going to look up the podcast. Okay? So, the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss podcast, Mom is getting her phone, I'll give people a second, is on a bunch of different platforms. And if you don't know how to use a podcast or whatever, that's what this part's about. Not a big deal, gonna help you with that. But it's on Stitcher, it's on Spotify, it's on TuneIn, Radio Public, Pod News Search. It's also there for Android, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. But the Google Podcasts and iHeartRadio are pending, so you won't be able to do that today, but they'll be coming on those platforms soon. So you can go ahead and pick, like the most common ones are Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, but like I said, it's unfortunately hasn't been put on Google Podcasts yet. So if you guys want to go and find your place for podcasts, and then the place that you would search, the easiest way is to search my name rather than the name of the podcast. Both will work, but you can just put in Leslie Thornton and you should see it there. Oh, Brittany Bob's here. I'm waiting for her audio to connect. Hey, Britt.
Hey.
How's it going? So nice to see you. Well, kind of.
That's a picture. I can't show you my face right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Mom, do you remember my high school friend, Brittany Bob? Remember me talking about a Brittany Bob? Oh, she's muted, so I can't hear her. Anyway, okay, Britt,
I do.
Okay, cool. We're going to catch you up.
Was she in the
Huh?
Was she in the play with you?
I don't believe Brittany was in the
No, I never did the play. I was always playing basketball.
Yes, basketball.
Okay. I know I drove you home or something.
That sounds accurate.
She did health explorations with me.
Right.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
drove us back to school or something one day. I think you did. Picked us up from our location off the site.
Podcast. What's it look like?
Okay, so Britt, welcome to the party.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm late. Totally forgot.
No problem. So we're looking up the podcast right now. I don't know if you normally listen to podcasts.
Trying to find good ones right now, actually.
Well, the best one just hit the presses. Yep, so the easiest way to search for it is Leslie Thornton. It looks like Annette might have found it, yeah? She's a whiz. She's a text whiz. You can raise your hand if you found Lisa found it. Cool, Caden's got it. We'll let everybody else. If you need any help like finding it, just say it aloud. Nobody hit play yet. We're gonna hit play at the same time.
Oh.
Fun game. So had to unmute. Oh, Caden, you're muted.
Who's what? I forget blah blah.
Blah blah is Martha. Blah blah is Martha.
I want to try and like dodge them. I want to try and like actually.
Raise your hand if you found it. Mom's got it. Dad, how are you doing?
I need some help finding it.
Okay. Do you normally listen to podcasts?
Oh, podcasts. I'm looking in apps. That's why.
Yeah, podcasts.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is a podcast launch.
This is a podcast launch party. Laura's my oldest sister, in case anybody wants to know as we're being boring. She's 4.5 years older than me, and she lives in San Francisco. She just got married to an amazing Filipino woman last July. which brought me back to the United States. So thank you for bringing me stateside again. It was the coolest wedding I have ever been to. It was like the most intimate pride parade down San Francisco to City Hall with like literal marching band, flags raising, and like it was amazing. Thank you for that event, sister. Cool.
Okay, I can't find it, which is weird because I'm pretty.
So are you searching my name? Some people spell Thornton and they forget the N in the middle.
I have the N.
Okay, so Leslie Thornton. And is it Apple Podcast, Spotify, or where are you?
I'm in Stitcher.
Oh, and Stitcher. So try typing in hypnosis for permanent weight loss.
I know Stitcher's a little harder to search for specific podcasts.
Dad, did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Britt, how'd you do?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm looking at you. I
found
love your picture, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. How you doing, Kathy?
In there?
Yeah. Do
Okay,
you have
then
it?
I got it. Yes.
Oh, what did you ask? I didn't hear your question.
That you already had 4 episodes on
That's
here.
right.
Okay. All right. Good, good.
Perfect. Wow, look at Ralph. He's sitting there very attentively. It's like posing for the call. Okay, perfect. So who does not have it yet? Everybody has it. Oh my gosh, you're all amazing and brilliant. Okay, so I'm gonna count down from 5, and everybody's gonna turn your volume all the way up. And hit it.
Hold on, Les.
Okay.
All right. Got it all the way up. Got it?
Yep. And then everybody's gonna hit play when I get to 1. So it's gonna be 5, 4, 3, 2, and then on 1 you're gonna hit play.
Play button right there. Little arrow. Yeah, go ahead.
Leslie, if I play it,
On 1.
if I, so I'm on this on my phone. If I play the podcast, is it going to disconnect the call?
I don't think that it will. I don't know if it'll play the
Okay.
podcast though, but it shouldn't disconnect your call.
And we're
Oh, okay.
obviously pressing play on episode 1, right?
Yep, episode 1 doesn't really matter. We're not going to play the whole thing, obviously. We're just
Wait a
going to
minute,
have
this-
a nice little unifying experience with some music. Yeah?
Oh,
Somebody's going to mess up and start it too soon. I can feel it.
right?
Probably going to be Dad. Okay. Are we good?
All right, get like at least 5 feet away from me.
Everybody's ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm gonna count down on 1, okay? So not after 1. When I say 1, it's play. 1 equals play, okay?
Okay.
Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mood and weight obsession. Feeling like a failure because you missed your workout. Gaining weight, dieting. Feeling like a failure because you missed your workout. Overeating. You can supplement. You can take back control of your food behaviors. But you have to face
Go ahead and pause it. Go ahead and pause it.
I am Leslie M. Thornton, hypnosis for permanent weight loss coach from weightlossalbany.com.
Okay, pause it. Thank you very much. All right, now, okay, ready? So here's the next steps. Thank you all for doing that. I love it. And you can always search for it that way. So, okay, if you would, so you're going to get some things if you do this. So, go, oh, you can't hear me? Oh, Laura, she said like this. Okay. If you could all hit subscribe, just hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already, does everybody see that button? Thank you for doing that. Yes, Brittany's got her thumbs up. Subscribe done. Mom and Dad, how you doing?
Subscribe.
Woohoo! Congratulations. Okay, so just so you know, there's going to be a new episode that comes out every single Wednesday. So you can be excited to wake up in the morning and hear Leslie's Wednesday podcast every week. And I gave you guys the initial first episode so you can binge listen. Okay, so.
Hold on. Oh, Take Back Control, episode 1. Is that what we're about to listen to?
We're not going to listen to it. We already did the, celebration of all listening to the intro. We're not going to.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
You can listen to it later and just be very
all right. Okay.
to your daughter. Okay, so what I want you to do now is take a screenshot of your being subscribed. So you're subscribed, take a screenshot. If you don't know how to do that, if you're on a phone like mom and dad do, you know how to do a screenshot? Oop, that is, okay. So you simultaneously hit the side button, that's the power, and the middle button at the same time, and it should flash on your screen, and you took a picture of that.
We're also learning about how to use our phones.
This is also a training for how to.
I think mine's different though.
Start listening to podcasts and taking screenshots. No shame. I remember when I didn't.
Yeah, I got it.
Took a screenshot?
Get it? Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. Mom got it too? Anyone still having trouble taking a screenshot?
Screenshot. I think you got a. It might be this one. There it is. Okay, Mom's got it. There it is. That's going to be in your photos now.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
they still have the home button.
Yeah, Mom has a home button. And
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, next step. Ready? You're all doing amazing. So if you have social media, if you don't worry about it. There's another task for you. If you go on social media, right, and there's going to be prizes for this, so stay tuned. You're going to tag me with that screenshot onto your social media. I know Laura's a big Instagrammer. She knows how to do it. So you're going to post the photo of you subscribed to the podcast or that you just took of the screenshot. And then hashtag if you're on Instagram, it's Leslie M. Thornton. Facebook, you can also tag me. I'm also mostly focusing on LinkedIn these days, so we'd love a recommendation if anybody's on LinkedIn. That's going on Facebook. So Mom, if you don't have social media, you can text it to me.
What do I text?
The photo.
Oh, let's go.
I have no idea how to do that.
What's your Instagram handle?
Hashtag, or is it hashtag or at Leslie M. Thornton? Yeah, it's at.
I don't know if I'm not following you. Does it let me tag you yet?
I don't know.
Let me see.
I was able to tag.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, it does show up.
Awesome.
I'm about to tag you, but I'm also trying to get like the gif of the fireworks. So
I love it. Thanks, kid. Making it special.
so Liz, I'm on Facebook now. How do I do this?
So you can put that you're gonna post.
Something okay.
You're gonna post, and then there should be a little camera for you to be able to add a photo to your post, or like a little like 2 sheets of paper. Did you see that?
Whoa, that's fun.
So on your Facebook, okay.
Well, no, hold on.
It's tricky on the phone sometimes.
So what am I looking for to post?
So do you see where it says write a post?
No, hold on. I got to go to my home page here.
Okay, go to your home page. Britt, how are you doing?
Oh, it posted. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
It wants to know what's on my mind.
Oh, I don't want to know what's on your mind except excitement for this. Anyway, so you can go ahead and attach the photo. So there should be a little icon that has a little camera or a little something. And then it should bring up your photos. Or it might say upload a photo or take a photo, and then you hit upload a photo. How'd you do, Martha? Oh, she's muted.
Picture on,
Oh, you're good now. We can hear you.
okay. The picture on, the picture doesn't show in, that I subscribe to you in Stitcher. So it doesn't show a subscription.
Ah, totally get that. I'm not as familiar with Stitcher, so I'm not sure about that. But the picture should show up, but it doesn't, huh? Or maybe the picture shows up, but it just doesn't have the subscribe button. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I have. You're on my you're on my playlist. And I can show it with the 4 episodes you've got, but it doesn't show that I have subscribed to it.
Got it.
I'm trying to think. It could be, yeah. I'm trying to think about how to do it.
Was there a subscribe button at all to click or no?
No.
Okay, so maybe Stitcher doesn't have it. And if they don't, maybe you can just take a screenshot of the 4 episodes and that's fine.
Okay, that I did.
All right. So Laura just posted something to me as a friend on Facebook about this.
Okay.
So now that's on my page.
Yes.
So what would you like me to do?
So you're off the hook.
Thank you.
Laura just did it, so is that good enough?
Thanks, Laura.
You
I
hit
did it for you, Dad. That's why you have kids.
I know, I can't do this stuff.
Yes, you can. If you want to put your screen up to the camera, I'm happy to just point you in the right direction.
I thought I was done. Laura said I was done.
Okay, you're done. That's fine.
It's on his page.
It's
I'll
on
add
my
his
page.
I'll get it out there.
Perfect.
On my page.
All right.
I'll send it to his 5 followers. Just kidding.
Oh, anyway. Okay, cool. Thank you all for doing that. And then what I want to do is put you guys in a raffle. So if you tag at least one other person or share that post with at least one other person and take a screenshot and send me that you've shared it with at least one other person, I'm going to enter you into win a personal barrier breakthrough session with me. So doing a deep dive, kind of like get a little taste of the hypnosis. Some of you have experienced that with me, but that will be the gift. So share it with one person, the podcast, give me some evidence of that. You can text it to me and I'll enter you into that raffle. And then we're gonna start some juicy, fun Q&A stuff. No more.
Are you saying real quick?
Yes.
Take a picture of posting on social or like texting it to somebody?
I think if you just were to, you could either tag someone and take a screenshot of the fact that you tagged them and send that to me to enter the raffle, or you could share it. Hey Lee. Oh, hey Lee. How's it going? This is my younger sister Lee. She's in New York City, taking butt. You look very beautiful, sis. So I'll just catch you up quick because we're pretty much already done with the first part, but everybody went on and they found my podcast. So you can find it Spotify, Apple, or I think those are the main 2. Do you listen to podcasts? You do, right?
Your podcast earlier today. So
you listened to my podcast earlier today. Okay, so if you're supposed to, if you hit subscribe, then you take a screenshot of that and post it on your social media and tag me.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you share it with at least one person that you think would like the podcast, then you're entered into a raffle.
Well then.
You look so pretty.
Thank you. Please stop saying.
Oh, you do, babe.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, Brooke Ritchie's here. She wasn't thinking she could come. Hey, Brooke Ritchie. Hey, thanks for being here.
Hi, bro.
Brooke's mom's birthday is
You get any
today,
of
so
this?
she was hanging out with mom. How's mom?
She's good.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
We had lunch and birthday cake and all the things. It was fun.
Oh, good. That's nice. Cool. Well, everybody has just went on their podcast. They subscribed to it. So the challenge is to take a screenshot of showing that you're subscribed to the podcast and then post it to your social media, tagging me.
Okay, and then we send it around. Okay.
And then if you share it with one person and then take a screenshot that you shared it and let me know that, then you're going to be entered into a raffle to get a breakthrough session with me, which, Brooke, I don't think you've ever had a breakthrough session with me.
No, but I'm doing it. How do I download your podcast?
Sure. Do you listen to podcasts?
Like on Spotify?
Yeah, it's on Spotify.
Okay. Okay,
So
great.
you can go to Spotify and you can search, I know, and you can search Leslie Thornton and it'll pop up. Screenshot of
Yeah,
subscribe,
Spotify.
share to social media,
With
tag me,
Spotify.
tag
Oh,
someone
yeah.
else, and then get that. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for that. Anybody have any questions? Anybody stuck? Ready to move on? Dance party? Okay, cool. How about everybody hits play again just for fun, just to do a break before the Q&A. Ready? Hit play
What do you mean hit play?
on the
Yeah,
podcast.
Oh, duh.
Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss coach from weightlossalbany.com.
Where's the music?
This is hypnosis for permanent weight loss. I know you can make this happen. In this podcast, you'll hear about how to
Press
go
2
back,
times speed.
love your body, trust your food decisions, and take back control of food so you can create a life of happiness.
Oh, you're doing
Well,
this.
thank you.
Now you're going too slow.
You have to have it at 1, Mom.
There you go.
That's fine. Thank you, everybody. Just a little transition time. Okay, so we're just going to drop into some Q&A. You know, it's about, you know, different things that people have asked me. And I also saw another podcast launch party and got inspired by some of the questions they asked her. So you guys, you know, stay as long as you can, you know, and if you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the chat for me, and we'll definitely give your guys' questions priority. But Hayden's just going to ask me those questions, and yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. So, you know, no shame if you got to go, but I think the Q&A will be fun. So, ready, Kaden?
Yes. Printed them out.
Awesome. Thank you for volunteering.
Okay. So, was it hard to start your podcast?
Oh my God. Was it hard to start my podcast? For me, yes. Some of you might have heard that I initially started the podcast in 2015, but like without official platforms. I like started working with this guy, Thomas Miller, who I co-led the Sedona Vortex Energy Tour retreat with. And he has an amazing podcast, and he was like starting to coach me to be able to start my own. And then when it came to the technology part, I just was like, and I just let it go. And it was a whole 5 years. And it just kept always being in the background of like, I want to be on a podcast. So anyway, recently my business coach had somebody come on talking about how to start a podcast, and I like outed myself, and I was like, I've been saying I want to start a podcast for 5 years. And they were like, how does that feel? And I was like, pretty bad that I haven't done anything. But anyway, so I bought a like training course, and someone reached out to me at the same time from my mastermind and was like, heard you want to start a podcast. Like, I want to too. Do you want to work together on it? So, I was really surprised. Like him and I met twice a week for 2-hour sessions twice a week, and just kept like, we'd be like, the next training module would be like, oh, it's 20 minutes, right? And we'd get off the phone and we'd both be working on the podcast and come back on after the 20 minutes and like, you know, talk about it, ask any questions. That was Gavin. Brooke knows Gavin. And yeah, and then it happened in 2 weeks, but I almost got stuck. If I didn't have Gavin there for the times, like I was making up subconscious excuses of why I couldn't move forward with the tech. Tech scares me. But yeah, it's done is better than perfect. So I expect the quality will continue to get better, but I'm really happy that it's out there. But it did feel hard, but when it all came down to it, I finished it in about 3 weeks. So
Wow,
that's the
talk
answer.
about massive action.
Oh my gosh. It was hard. I'm really happy. Today I was crying. Today, as I was preparing the material for this, I started crying listening to the beginning of it. Like, just like, I can't believe it's happening. Like, I'm proud of myself for it.
Good, you should be.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool. How long have you been a coach, and what do you like about it?
I got certified as a coach in 2000. I started in 2013 and I finished it in 2014. Kind of landed in my lap. I was going to school to be a psych nurse practitioner, and I signed up for the wrong class on the wrong day and messed up my entire schedule for nursing and had to drop out of that class. And I was so mad at myself. I was like, well, what am I going to do with my time now? And then at that moment, I remembered this. Her name is Chelsea. She was a friend of mine in high school. And I remember one day my friend and I were hanging out in her living room, like sitting on the couch, and her mom came running in and like puts the portable phone on the jack, and she's like, girls, don't let anyone ever tell you you can't do what you love for a living and make a damn good living doing it. She was like, I was like, and that memory popped in, and I was like, I gotta find out what that woman's doing, because I would love to be that happy all the time. And I called her up, we had a meeting, and she told me about the International Coach Academy, which is where I got certified, and I completely and madly fell in love with the entire thing. Like, and then when I was still working as a nurse, like 24/7, I was listening to other coaches' stuff, like listening to other coaches' podcasts. Like, I couldn't get enough of it. And yeah, I pretty much got married to it. And what was the second part of the question?
What do you like about it?
What do I like about it? I like that it is like all based around positive psychology. You know, it's like, so when I worked in kidney transplant as a nurse, what I found out later that I loved about it was that the patients who got the kidney transplant were equally, if not more, motivated to get better than the nurse was to help them. Right. So it was like a unique thing because they got a second lease in life when they got their kidney. So they're like, I'll do anything that you tell me to do. Like, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to whatever. And so just like understanding that coaching is like such an empowered choice, you know, to be able to have someone say like, I want this because I know it's going to change my life. Right. And then the experience of working with someone who's equally, if not more motivated to make a change is probably the most exciting thing. And then watching them actually fly, like all of my clients, some of you are them, you know, like watching them grow. It's like ultimate parenting, I would imagine, even though I'm not a parent, because, and Brooke knows, she's a coach, like, because these people, like if you had a kid, you'd still want to train that kid to be as successful as you are, right? But as a parent, you're not always going to be successful with them following that plan. But as your client who's just as invested, like they're following that plan, and to watch them grow up and like do all the things that you say are going to make a difference, and then they get that experience for themselves, it's like the most exhilarating process. And yeah, for me personally, it's completely changed my life. So just getting to share back what's made the most difference for me is what I love about that the most. It feels so amazing.
Awesome. What's been the hardest part of your journey?
Ooh. What's been the hardest part of my journey? I think the hardest part of my journey has been like continuously day after day facing all of my fears, like literally scaring myself every day. Just with that, I don't know where that internal drive necessarily comes from, but you know, similar to this podcast and why that's all happening, of just like getting that message heard and like being able to make a difference for people. And I think like all of the, you know, having to build up my confidence and having to, you know, talk and public speak when I'm scared to death and having to, right. And yeah, I think just, being scared every day and still just showing up and taking action and taking risks. And all the emotions that come along with that. You know, Brooke and I talk every day. We're like crying to each other in Voxer about how scared we are. And like, it's like, oh my God, what's happening? But I wouldn't change a thing about it. It's made me who I am today. And I'll never stop that. I love it. I do. It's hard, but I love it.
Absolutely. Where did your weight loss journey begin?
My weight loss journey began when I was 8 years old and was just starting to get pudgier, and I was like one of those kids that was starting to get a little pudgier, and just having the awareness around, okay, this is portion control, this is calories, and mom was super supportive with helping me with that kind of stuff. She also, had a track record, if you don't mind me sharing, Mom. She worked on that stuff in her childhood a little bit as well. So she just was, kind of the champion in that. And just both my parents are super health conscious people. I come from a health background. Pretty much everybody in my family is in the health fields. Laura's a speech pathologist, physical therapist, school nurse, nursing, So, and then I think also I was somebody, and I'm still working on this. If you're my client right now, we're all working on this, of just being emotional, right? But bottling all of that emotion in. And I think I took on this role in the family of taking care of everyone. So it made me a super good leader and nurse, because you wouldn't ever know that I'm scared half the time. But, to have that release, food was my way to have that outlet. So it began when I was really young, and it's been my greatest teacher, and the journey is never ending. So.
And where did you start to incorporate the hypnosis into the weight loss part?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So I got certified as a coach. On that journey of being certified, I had to also get coached, right? I had to be the coach, and I also had to get coached. And one of the coaches that I was working with, it was career clarity, basically, because I was I knew I didn't want to be a nurse forever, right? I could tell that wasn't going to make me happy forever. And she was helping me brainstorm. She was like, well, what's something that you have a knack for, or something that you've overcome? And I was like, oh my God, well, I experienced this hypnosis for weight loss, and it completely changed my life. I was I used to be crazy obsessed about food and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, after listening to this thing one day, my whole world just completely blew apart. And she was like, well, that sounds pretty great. Maybe you should do that. She's like, I want it after you just saying that. So I was like, oh, really? So then I put on the coaching platform for me to coach other people in my practice hours, that I was going to coach them, helping them with hypnosis for permanent weight loss. And all these people started, coming to me for that. So I was just teaching them about the experience, but I wasn't using hypnosis because I wasn't a hypnotherapist. I wasn't trained, right? And then after a while, I had 2 clients that were like, Leslie, we don't want you to teach us about it. We just want you to hypnotize us. And I was like, oh, well, okay. I was like, well, I can try to do the same thing I did on myself over the phone, And so I did it, I took that risk. And then they came back to me the next week. They're like, whatever you did last week, do it again. I've never felt so free around food. I also shared it with a patient when I was working as a nurse. And he came to me, he was admitted really late at night one night on a Friday. And he was crying and super overweight, and was like, I can't even play with my kids. I'm gonna die. I've tried everything to lose weight. And I was a new nurse. I was like, I don't know if I should share about hypnosis. So I just took that risk, and I was like, well, I know about this hypnosis. I shared about it with him. He 6 months later, he was back in the hospital, and I didn't know he was there. And then I walk into the room, and he's like, I was hoping I'd see you. He's like, I've lost 60 pounds. I'm off 2 blood pressure medications. And I was just like, what? This actually works? Because it was kind of something I was keeping private, because I was like, this is kind of weird. Who's gonna do that? So anyway, after the practice client said that, I was like, oh, maybe I could have a hypnotherapist do this. So then I Googled hypnotherapy in Albany, New York, and literally right down the street from where I was living popped up on Google this hypnotherapist that lived right down the street. So I called him, and it ended up being, my mom knows, his name is Mark Shepard. And we had a conversation, and he was like, well, I'm not interested in doing that business. He's like, but I train people in hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming and something called timeline therapy. So I ended up apprenticing with him, and he was probably the best teacher you could ever imagine. He's such an introvert and such a hidden gem. But every single week I went over, and as he was with his clients and hypnotizing them, I was just sitting next to him, taking notes, being part of that experience. He would also do some of that on me. And it was such a transformational year of me and I was also hating my nursing job at the time. So he was very supportive in me, like making that transition out of my career. And and then I just started working one-on-one with clients, doing the hypnosis and coaching them through that process. And then it like continued to just later develop into the program that it is today. So, you know, all the coaching involved and all the different other tools besides just hypnosis that help people have that transformation.
What do you do for fun?
Ooh, what do I do for fun? I really like to dance. I really like to create stuff in my business. I really like to talk to Brooke and laugh. What else do I like to do for fun? I really like to sing a lot. Actually, funny story, when I got this whole setup for the podcast, I was like, oh my God, I have my own recording studio. Like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to like drop some jams, you know, like I'm going to just sing and like, you know, so I'm in my closet and I'm like recording myself. Look at Lee. What did she say? Anyway, so this was like a couple weeks ago, and then I played it back and I was like, I'll never do that again. It sounded so bad. I was like, that is not good. But anyway, so I like to sing and I really like recording all of that stuff. And I like doing the podcast, like everything for my business. Like it feels like my artwork. It's my energy. It's my, I really love that. I nerd out on it. I like meditating. I like manifesting consciously, you know, the next areas of my life. And I really like being present, being out in nature, taking walks, you know, just enjoying the present moment. I love the beach. I love to swim. Oh my God. If there is a body of water, I am in it. I don't care how cold it is. I am right there. So yeah, I think that's it.
What's the hardest part or parts of your client's permanent weight loss journey?
Ooh, the hardest part of my client's permanent weight loss journey. I think it would have to be number one, a major healing part of it is people actually sharing the shame. Like I know for me that the reason why it was such an issue for me was because I felt like nobody could understand what I was going through. So I think when people are initially coming from that space of like, I'm all alone in my brain, like obsessing about this all the time, and then they get into that group, like the initial visibility and sharing that vulnerability, I think is challenging, depending on who they are, but most of the time. And then I think the major thing, because so much of it is like pushing down emotional eating, right, is like actually feeling that emotion, like having them feel safe enough to go into their body and feeling that sadness or that anger or that pain, right? It can feel really scary. So I think that's the hardest part. But then once they do it enough times, they start not being afraid of facing those emotions. And then that's when their life can really have fun.
What's one of the fears that comes up most often in your clients?
Ooh, what's one of the fears? Oh, well, before I start working with them, they have a crazy fear of gaining weight. That's like what's causing them to like try to control that, you know, and just constantly trying to control it all the time. They're just really afraid to gain weight. And they're also the scarcity mindset. So just like that fear of it's not enough or I don't have enough is a major fear that I see clients have all the time. And that plays into the role of why people overeat on stuff, because maybe, you know, in childhood you came from a big family and like mom brought home cookies and they were gone in 10 seconds because all of your siblings had that super fast. So then like you get into that primal brain mode of like, I gotta have that now before it's gone, you know? And then those same habits and patterns continue on into adulthood. And it's like, we feel like, how come I can't get out of this pattern? So like the major thing that I always say to clients is like, it's not your fault. You can't control it. Like you have to access the body. You have to feel these emotions. You have to do the hypnosis. And then you're able to have that freedom.
What's your favorite thing to teach?
What's my favorite thing to teach? I think my favorite thing to teach is, I mean, this might sound kind of airy-fairy to some people, but just like, Kaden, you understand like the virtual reality game that life is, like the consciousness stuff of like when people really get that like life is empty and meaningless and like is all made up and like there's no facts about who you are, there's no facts about like what life is like, and then once the hypnosis helps them get that, like that's what happened to me. It was like I realized like if I was plagued with this, I was always the person that was like, if a genie came and you had 3 wishes, like what would you wish for? It's like, I wish that I could eat whatever I wanted and never gain any weight. Right. And like I thought that that was going to be something I would have to like really be pained with my entire life. And then the hypnosis happened, and then it was like realizing that I was the creator of my own reality through my thoughts. So when a client really gets for the first time that they create the reality based on the thoughts that they're thinking in their brain, and then we get to start to play with like, oh my God, well, like, let's see what other thoughts are in there that are stopping you or getting in your way. And like, let's transform that, so that you can start to attract different results in your life. Like that's my favorite thing to teach, is like that virtual reality game consciousness. And like when a client gets on that level, like Kaden, you know,
Just this Thursday, yeah.
yeah, just yesterday, Kaden had his session with me and he's like, I'm really starting to get that like anything that bothers me is just some part of me that I haven't resolved. And anything that I love is, you know, something that I love about me. And like nothing out there matters. It's all just stuff that's within me. And I'm like, yes, Eureka, like the best. So yeah, that's my favorite thing to teach.
Yeah, that's super fun. So you've traveled all over the world. What's your favorite place that you've been, and what do you like so much about traveling?
Okay. I found out in my travels that I'm an island girl. I love everything about islands. I love the scooters. I love the beach. I love the climate. I love the way that people are in that, you know, island life, just laid back and whatever. And my favorite place was an island called Koh Phangan in Thailand. And basically, you know, they had the ecstatic dance, which I used to run an ecstatic dance. I'm a big fan of it. They had that and an amazing, like, it's like all the way up this hill in this like huge, beautiful, like wooden dome, and just all the like hippie part of the island would show up and just for hours just be, you know, like sober dancing into like amazing, you know, tribal or whatever kind of, you know, music that was happening. And they would give you cacao, like a cup of, you know, hot cacao, like that you can keep sipping throughout the ecstatic dance. So just to be able to go to that a couple times a week, like in between client calls, you know, like I'd literally like have a couple client calls, I'd get on a scooter over up to this hill and start like ecstatic dancing until my next client calls back down, like go and like swim in the ocean. It was amazing. I had a hammock on my porch and other people working, and it was awesome. So that was definitely my favorite place. And then what do I love about traveling? I really like the actual commute process. Like I love from the moment I step out that door and enter into the Uber or transportation, right? Like all the way into the airport, into the plane. Like I love just being like in that, like just present moment, time and space. Like I love everything about that. Just like transmission to another place. It's just like, I even as a, you know, a teenager, right? I'd take the bus and mom and dad would wave goodbye and I'd go to visit Laura, you know, at Boston. She went to Northeastern and she was my cool older sister, and it was like my time away. But like putting on my headphones and listening to music and just being in that like expansive, like vibrational space of travel, it just, I'm so happy and alive. Like I just love everything about that. I think that's my favorite part. I love that, you know, and then you just get to a new place and it's like, what's this world like? This is amazing. So that's what I like about it, the present moment, the experience.
I get that. What was like life like for you before hypnosis?
Before hypnosis, I was definitely, I would say, like trapped in a box of just constantly obsessing about that all the time. It was crazy. It was all the time thinking about that, like constantly. And, you know, that was like, I don't know any other way to describe it other than it was just constant. It was constant thinking about, I feel fat, you know, I need to eat that. I can't eat that. I have to go to the gym. You know, how much do I weigh? I hate the way I look. Like, it was crazy. And it was all the time. Yeah. And like feeling completely out of control of myself, like at parties, or if there was food in the house that like I wanted to have all of it right now and fast. Right. Oh, Laura had to leave. Right. Bye. Yeah. So that was life before that. It was a lot. Mm-hmm.
And what happened after you first discovered hypnosis?
Yeah. Waking up the next day, I was in San Francisco living on my sister who just had to pop off, living on her couch, studying for my nursing boards that summer. Listened to it as I went to bed at night and woke up the next day, and it was like, I can't describe it any other way. I describe it the same way all the time. It's probably in the podcast as well. It's like this little tingly feeling in the air. It was just like everything just seemed like it was like quieter and slowed down so much. And I was aware for the first time, like that I would normally be thinking about like coffee or breakfast or what was gonna like pull me out of bed automatically. But that I no longer felt like that I was out of control of that. Right. Like that impulse wasn't greater than I was, like I was greater than the impulse. And yeah, I just felt like for the first time I was sitting back inside my body and like I had choice. I had the power to make whatever decision I wanted to make versus those things having that power and control over me.
Do you coach your clients not to drink alcohol or sugary foods or all that stuff?
Yeah. So there's definitely, my family will remember part of my journey where I was like, absolutely none of that stuff and all of that. I kind of got away from this more, you know, I was talking to a buddy today and she was talking about like the self-actualized path, you know, versus like following that diet, you know, structure and having that control kind of situation. Yeah, so that used to be something that I was doing and it wasn't something that was going to last for me. So, you know, based on a lot of the work that I've done, even in the last year, you know, it's realizing that that was kind of also triggering the scarcity part of my brain, to when those things did show up, that was when the like binge kind of behavior that was feeling very scary. I didn't have like a binge thing in the past. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, like I'm so scared of what I'm about to do right now. That stuff all came up. So no, I don't help my clients to do that. I use the hypnosis to take the charge off those things, right? So it's not something that it's like, you have to have it. Like there's a pause and you get to make a choice versus like just doing it. But yeah, it's like, I always say like, it's totally okay to have those things. There's no shame around it. I just want you to feel like those things don't have complete control over you and you get to make that decision regardless of what that is.
What's your go-to stress relief?
My go-to stress relief, that's a good question. It used to be baked goods and sugary foods, and sometimes it can still be that. But that's also been part of my journey in the last year is really expanding that. I call it my joy wheel for people who are in my class, right? Of like all of the different things that would feel really good, you know, and like kind of training my clients to feel into their bodies of like, would taking a bath feel good? Would listening to music feel good? Would dancing feel good? Would eating something delicious feel good? You know, like whatever that is. So yeah, so that's more of my stress relief these days is like really like when I have that time feeling into my body and then just like taking a walk, and just giving myself permission to do whatever feels like it's actually something that I want to do that's going to make me feel good and release that stress. Talking to Brooke is like the go-to one though. 100%, because, you know, I could just get on there and cry and yell or be angry or whatever, and she does not. It's just like, oh yeah, she's just working through an emotion, like, and she's going to be okay. It's not a big deal. And I always am fine right after, you know, so that's a huge one, is that connection.
So coronavirus is happening and I haven't been at the gym and I'm starting to feel stressed. Do you have any tips for that?
Oh, yeah. So coronavirus is happening and I haven't been at the gym and I'm starting to feel stressed about that. Any tips? I would say, well, this is kind of a complex answer to this question. But number one, I've talked to a lot of people lately where, like, because of coronavirus, it becomes this opportunity to become more aware of the things that are bothering you when you no longer have all of those options or your go-to ways of dealing with things. So, you know, I could give the strategical path of, like, you know, well, get a buddy and start doing a workout. But sometimes it's way more complicated than that, because, you know, I would just be curious about what that feeling is of not being able to go to the gym anymore. And is it that sense of loss, or is it that grief? Like, it might sound stupid or something like that, but those feelings that you might be feeling are real. Or maybe you're like having to deal with your anger and you realize, like, oh, I never realized that I had like an anger thing in the past, you know, but now I'm feeling that anger and I don't have my normal automatic vice of the gym to get rid of that. Right. So it's like, then what are some other tools that I could use to help me diffuse this anger that I'm feeling in my body? Which is the exact kind of work that I help my clients with, that Brooke helps her clients with, you know, of that kind of emotional stuff. So I would just like look within yourself and just kind of like ask yourself, like, do I feel emotion, the fact that I can't go to the gym? And like allow yourself to feel that emotion. And then after you feel the emotion, then you'll naturally know what it is that you want to do. Like, do you want to go and start to, you know, jog or work out or do something like that? But if you're trying to just push, and it's really like this emotional pain, I really recommend feeling that pain. And get help if you need to for that, because like I said, that's the number one thing people are scared of, is feeling their painful emotions.
I have a question. So as your client, I always hear you say that we're always being hypnotized by everything we watch and consume. So recently, with all the shortages, I know that I felt a huge inner desire to run to the store. And I mean, the first day I got like $300 worth of food. So I'm wondering, that scarcity stuff, has that been coming up in your clients with food related to this situation?
Yeah, I've definitely talked to people. I wouldn't say it's happening with my current clients as much right now, because they at least have the, you know, coaching to be able to like deal with it as it comes. But the people that I've been talking to have been like, since I've been locked in my house, like, and I have access to the kitchen all the time, you know, then I'm constantly going to the kitchen and I can't stop eating, is something that I, you know, keep hearing people say. Yeah, so I think that it's definitely causing people's stuff to come up, because again, you know, it's those normal, you know, impulses or normal go-tos to make that feeling go away, right? That can't be done. So then people are left like, well, what can I do? Right. And that's where, so for me, I always had this, like, I don't know how this is going to be taken, but I've met other people who felt the same, like apocalyptic type of like mentality around, like, I don't want to be so attached to anything that, you know, even if the world ended and nobody else existed anymore, that I would feel like completely out of control of myself. Maybe it's like a control thing, like whatever. So, you know, whenever I feel that attached to something and like scared because I can't go to that store anymore to get that vice or whatever, I don't like that. I don't want that to happen. So I think that's the reason why I've learned those tools to deal with that emotional pain. So I have freedom from that stuff. And I'm not, I'm not like the same way before the hypnosis. Like, those things don't have that kind of control over me. So I always use those attachments, or, you know, to dive deeper within myself and discover what's still left there for me to understand or heal. which then brings me to the next place in my path and helps my clients.
Yeah. So I always start out strong, and whenever I take some plan of action, it's so hard to stay consistent and I drop off. What advice do you have for me?
Yeah, staying consistent. That's a very interesting one. That's the biggest one. Okay, personally for me, I don't stay consistent unless, number one, I am invested in something. Like I make a decision that I am going to do this thing, and then I invest in a coaching program where they have that system of support, right? And it's like on a regular basis, like my mind is getting infiltrated with, you know, that kind of material, you know, if that makes sense, because it's all about the mind. So the more that you keep your mind in like a container, which is why there's the coaching containers, right? Like I really recommend coaching is the answer for that if you can't stay consistent yourself, if you're not internally motivated. The other thing is that you could really like, first of all, just like own the fact that maybe you don't actually want that thing. Maybe you're saying that you like care about losing weight, but at the end of the day, you're actually like pretty okay with your body, right? So like having those conflicting desires. But then, you know, for example, I hadn't been exercising for a long time because I just like had no inspiration around it. And then I like felt into my body and I was like, well, what would make me feel inspired about it? And I was like, I really want to feel like it's one of those like bougie exercise classes, like one of those, like you go to the, and it feels like you're at the spa and like they like take really good care of you and like it's beautiful and bright and white and plants, you know? And so I was like, that would make me inspired. And that's when I started doing the bar classes when I got here in Portland. So, you know, finding something that really is going to spark joy, kind of like Marie Kondo, and like something that you really enjoy. You can't go wrong when you do something because you're enjoying it. And if you know you have to for some reason, then make an investment and probably one that scares you a little bit, where they're going to hold you in that container and you're going to kind of have no other way out.
I was listening to Tony Robbins today, and he was talking about how if something has a negative connotation for you, like doing the dishes for me or, you know, eating something, that you have to like rewire your brain to put positive connotations on whatever task you're trying to like teach yourself to do. Do you ever use those things in your hypnosis?
Yeah, 100%. So the subconscious mind cannot hear any negatives. Okay, so that's the same way. So if people start dieting or you decide that you're going to stop drinking or stop smoking or something like that, ever notice that it becomes even harder to stop doing that thing? It's like, and the reason behind that is because you're constantly sending this message to your brain, like, don't eat those cookies, right? Like, don't eat that sugar. But your subconscious does not hear the don't. It doesn't hear the negative. It only hears, right? So all you're telling your brain all day long is eat the cookies, have the drink, you know, like it cannot process negatives. So 100%, like in the hypnosis, like you're trained that you want to be saying everything in the positive. So our primal brains as human beings and all animals will focus on the negative because it's trying to survive, right? So it's trying to avoid abandonment. It's trying to avoid death. It's trying to avoid all those scary things. So as a way to avoid it, we focus on the negative, right? So people who have chronic negative thinking or anxiety, right? You're focusing on the negative. So it takes a conscious effort to actually place your attention into the positive. So the hypnosis actually acknowledges the negative, right? It acknowledges that you have all those things so you can, your subconscious can hear that. And then it brings you into this vision of, what do I actually want? We spend very little time dreaming as adults, you know? So it's like, I want a lean, strong, and healthy body. I want to feel happy, thin, and free. I want to feel energized and inspired and, you know, happy. I see myself drinking, you know, beautiful, crisp, lovely water every day, right? Like, and then after you're in that relaxed state, like your subconscious is then hearing it, and then your conscious and subconscious minds can start to agree, and it makes people feel at peace. So when Tony Robbins says that, absolutely, you know, and even one of our clients who was just on the call last week, you might remember, she was like doing it and she found like this negative, you know, emotion, and she was like, okay, I'm just going to transform it into the cheerleader, right? Like it became the cheerleader. right? So if you do put that positive spin on anything that you're doing, right, you're going to have way more chances of being successful long term, because again, you're doing it because you're happy to, you're inspired to, you really would like to have that, not because if I don't do that, then I'm going to get fat. That's going to just put you in a torture chamber for your entire life. So yeah, coming from that place of empowerment and positivity is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. So do you have any tips for how to stay consistent and motivated?
I feel like I answered that already.
Oh,
It's okay.
how does hypnosis fit into your coaching programs?
I feel like I kind of answered that one already too. Maybe we can skip that. But, you know, by week 2 of my clients are now, it's a 3-month hypnosis for permanent weight loss coaching program. So week 2 is when they get the hypnosis. The first week is kind of looking at their patterns, looking at like where their stuff has come from, bringing awareness to what foods are always in the way for them and behaviors and all that. Week 2, they get the hypnosis, and then they continue to get more tools and coaching after that.
So what's your goal in starting the podcast?
Ooh, my goal in starting the podcast, I want to reach 100,000 people. I don't know exactly how that's going to look, or, you know, whether that's in subscribers or something else. I also, yeah, I know so many things, and I've, you know, faced so many challenges, and I know that there's so many people that are suffering with the same kind of stuff that I used to suffer with. And it can, you know, I don't want anybody that doesn't have to be in that place to be in that place. I want people, you know, I would see patients in the hospital as a nurse on their deathbeds, you know, at 40 years old. And they'd be saying, you know, if I only knew that this is what my life was going to be like, I would have made so many different choices. And it was like, okay, like, I don't want people to go out that way. Like, they need to know that, you know, and when your brain is stuck in those ways, you can't see outside of it. So it's like, let's train the brain to, you know, take back control of your life so you can just really enjoy this gift that we've all been given to be on this planet. It's amazing.
Yeah. So last question.
Okay, last question.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Ooh. In 5 years, I see myself married with a family in an amazing house. I see that my business is completely like taking off in directions I never would have expected. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I feel like it could go anywhere. You know, recently when I've been on dates, I've said, you know, I could be, you know, having this business that's very successful, and I'm very happy by the time I get to a place of having a family and a home, and I'm like good with it, and I'm just happy and content. I was like, and I could see it going to like Oprah level of stages and books and, you know, whatever. I'm not necessarily seeking that, but I will say that I am, I had the drive to continuously grow and scale and take action to reach all those people never goes away. Even if I have a bad day, like, I will wake up the next day and I will keep feeling inspired and motivated to keep creating. So I think just because of that, and I know that that's not going to go away, I think that it will probably, something like that will happen. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know anything like that, but that's a little far in the distance. But maybe that's beyond 5 years. Maybe that's within 5 years. I don't know. But yeah, I would like to have both of those worlds happening. Family, business, all of it. Cool. Kaden, thank you. Awesome. And thanks everyone for staying. Does anybody have any of your own personal questions or anything that they want to share? Thanks for staying for this whole thing. I really appreciate that everybody was here. What'd you say?
I said hello.
Hello, Dad.
So you hear a lot about food security, food insecurity. It seems like a lot of these eating issues come down to insecurity, security issues, right?
Safety and security.
Safety and security. So anxiety and thinking that you need to eat everything because there may not be enough to eat. I mean, that just seems to have struck a nerve with me, with a lot of people. You know, it seems like the overeating that goes on. Like, what is it? What is the motivation? I mean, is it that they're insecure, right? Or
So it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. Number one is the awareness that you're having this anxiety that's causing the eating, right? So what the hypnosis tool can help with is slowing it down so that you have awareness, right? Because sometimes, like for me, before the hypnosis, it would be like, you know, my hand would be in a chip bag scarfing down chips, and I'd have this like weird quasi moment, would be like, how did this even happen? Like, I don't even remember doing this, right? And it would scare me because it was like, I said I wasn't going to do this, and here I am, right? So so having that pause of awareness and just that desire to understand more of like, what's happening for me? Like, why is this happening?
well, what are you trying to do? I mean, what is it that people are doing when they overeat? Is the actual...
There is no one answer, but it is always a primal fear. Like I was saying before, that part of your brain is fighting for survival.
So it's an insecurity. Like you feel that you need to eat to feel more secure.
It could be that for some. Only based on your past and your upbringing and your childhood, like it's literally individual for everybody. It could be like, I'm afraid that, you know, I'm like, nobody is gonna love me anymore. Like it could be like, I'm afraid that, you know, I'm gonna fail at my job. Fear of failure, fear of abandonment.
So you're eating. So why are you eating? Because of those fears.
So it starts with a thought. The feeling always starts with a thought, and the thought is happening without your even being aware that it's happening. So say you're in your day-to-day life, you're at work, something happens, somebody says something to you, right? And that the part of you that has not had this emotional awareness, I'm not speaking directly for you, I'm speaking for everyone, just feels this uncomfortable, like, you know, every human being is motivated by avoiding suffering. That is how we are motivated. I want to avoid suffering, right? So, but anyway, so that thought in your head is actually saying something to you like, I'm a failure, they're mad at me, I don't know how to deal with this, I'm afraid, right? And that thought causes the feeling in the body, because that's how the mind body works. Thought, feeling in the body, and then we take action to numb that pain. And so if you learn how to identify and slow down and find out what is that thought that's causing that pain in my body, then all of this work that Brooke and I do is, and all of my clients that I have that are doing it too, are how do I change that thought and become aware of what that thought is so that I no longer experience that pain and I'm not a victim to that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's different for absolutely everybody, but safety and security is huge. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I also, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
So I also feel like, and it's probably what you're saying here too, is, you know, the eating is kind of filling a void, you know, when there is something that you can't fill, something in yourself that you can't fill or fulfill, then sometimes you do it with food.
100% loneliness, you know.
Well, why food? Well, I mean, why food?
Well, food is the most readily
available. Why does it play such an important
part?
Well, it's
our culture. It's like what we do for comfort, right?
So first of all, it works. It works to numb that pain, right? Second of all, it's readily available. It's socially acceptable. You have to eat to live. And it's the first thing that you have from birth that equals comfort, love, you know, all of that stuff. Right. So you learn, the first thing that you learn is how to soothe yourself with taking in mom's milk.
Right.
And so we're literally just operating from that same habit and pattern of, this is how I receive that love, that comfort, that safety, that security is from food, which is why the hypnosis for permanent weight loss, like I have smokers and they'll quit after one session and never smoke again. You know, I'll have, you know, people like that. But with food, it's just, it's a lifelong journey because you can't
All
take
right.
it out, and it's the
Yeah,
first thing.
because you have to have food to exist.
So what you're with through the hypnosis, you're basically disconnecting those bad feelings towards whatever it is that's happening in your life, towards the remedy of food as being the comfort that you need to right. So is that what the hypnosis does?
So
You what? You discouple, or you take that relationship apart?
Yeah. So
between food and
emotion.
Yes. So neuroplasticity, right? It's kind of a newer thing that we now know. Like people used to just have a fixed mindset where they'd be like, well, I just can't, you know, I'm plagued with this. I have a slow metabolism, or this is in my genes, or right. And now neuroscientists have shown that you can actually change the neural pathways in your mind, right? Through habit and repetition. So with the hypnosis, you're slowing down the mind, right? And you're while the brain is relaxed, your subconscious mind turns on. So it's that other part of your brain that isn't like trying to control and like go through your life, you know, with logic and decision making and all that kind of stuff. So you're quieting that part of you for a second. And then this other part of your brain turns on, which is the subconscious. And then that's when you're infiltrating the subconscious with the positive affirmations and the things that you're saying in that relaxed state in a very particular way that has it so that you're saying those things of like the things that you want to have happen instead. So then when you come out of the hypnosis, those two parts, like the part of you that wants to lose weight is also in alignment with the subconscious, because your subconscious is no longer fighting for your survival of I'm not going to be safe if I don't have it. And it's now on the same page that I'm actually going to be more safe if I, you know, stay away from that food and I actually like enjoy sharing my feelings with my family and friends. You know what I mean? Like whatever message you're implementing, which gives you that power back.
Is that the substitute? I feel bad. Somebody just said something that really upset me, and I need food to make me feel better about it.
Mm-hmm.
What is the substitute for food against those feelings?
Yep. You discovering
feelings, or do you have to change the remedy?
Yep. So it's you're becoming aware of what's the thought that you're thinking that's making you feel mad. So you can either go into what feeling am I feeling in my body right now? Right. So it's like, I feel really mad right now. Right. And it takes practice. Like you might have a guide or something to go through that of like feeling into the body and like really experiencing like, this is what anger feels like. And I'm not going to like die if I feel that pain or that emotion. And actually like really magical, like you start to really feel good when you allow, it's like, okay, so babies, right? They are constantly just emotionally emoting all the time. They'll be angry, they'll be happy, they'll be crying, they'll be sad, right? In seconds. We are no different than babies, the way that emotions move through us. But as we become adults, we're told, don't feel mad, don't yell, don't cry. And so we have to find a way, but that emotion is still in our body. So we have to find a way to let that out. Yeah, so we found out that food numbs that pain. So by you learning again how to feel that emotion and not be scared of it, you know, cry if you need to, feel mad if you need to, like, you know, having all those different tools for that.
So don't you
not feel that craving and that craziness anymore.
So don't use food as a drug to simply mask those feelings.
100%.
But I have to say, I feel like mindfulness is a huge part of that because, you know, I have seen you, Leslie, like, Les, you want a glass of wine, and instead of just the automatic, oh, I'd love a glass of wine, you pause and think about it. Do I really want a glass of wine right now? Which is being mindful. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of it, to be able to stop and think before you do, or before you eat, or before you whatever. So I think that training your brain to be mindful is a really important aspect of
100%.
While
And
you're
the hypnosis
eating,
can help
like
with that.
overeating, yeah.
Yeah,
Mindfulness
just
is overeating, yeah.
because it just becomes a habit, right? Like, and I know in the past it was for me of like, it was a habit. If someone offered me a glass of wine, it would be like, absolutely, you know what I mean? Like immediately, right? Because it's just like, we associate that wine with happiness, with joy, with release, with, right? All that good stuff, right? But then
Yeah.
if when you have the hypnosis, that might have different messages, because you also wake up the next day and you're like, I hate myself. Why did I do that? You're, might be throwing up in the toilet, like, right? So it's like, having that pause and that like, and also the proving to yourself that you can find happiness, you can find that joy, you can find all of that stuff without having that too, right? In a different way. I have all these options for how I can feel the same way, right? So then it just becomes like, yeah, feeling into the body and being like, what does my body actually want? And then, maybe even thinking like, well, what do I have going on later? What do I have going on tomorrow? Do I want to feel like that? And then making a choice based on what it is that I actually want.
This is also
But
interesting.
yeah, mindfulness is big.
So Les.
Wait a minute, Caitlin had a problem.
I was just going to say, this is all so interesting, and it feels like you could talk forever. And I'm so excited to listen to the podcast because it really is like a never-ending topic. Like, it's mindfulness and it's like meditation and hypnosis. And I mean, I've been working with you for 8 months now, and I remember the first couple of months you were like, just start noticing. I was like, I'm not noticing anything. Like, I'm not noticing anything. And then I was falling asleep one day and I accidentally discovered meditation for the first time in my life, where I just like dropped below the level. And I was like, oh, I'm actually like hanging out over here. And that chatter brain over here is not the same thing as that watcher. And
I had the same experience, Katie.
That's amazing. And it really is so cool. Like, all of this, it's fascinating. And
I agree.
I really want you to reach all these people, because I mean, if I hadn't have met you, I like to think I would have found out about this stuff, but it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's pretty new, and there's people that have no idea that it exists, and they're literally just in their pain because they're just thinking those thoughts the way that you were prior to that, And so for me to know that there's people out there that are like that don't know this stuff is like, that's what drives me. I'm like, there's people that are just, in that place. So thank you. And I really appreciate all of your support in helping me spread that. Hopefully, a get together for the podcast is going to be way bigger than this in the future. And I look forward to having you guys, know that you were the initial pack in the team. But I have so much information. I literally am a weight loss expert, an emotional mastery, a consciousness. Like, I am that, right? So it's like my job to keep reminding myself of that and building my confidence up, and like continue to just keep do that, for the greater good of that. It's a journey. I wish it could happen tomorrow, but I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Any other questions? Thanks so much for sticking around, and thanks for that, Kaden. Brooke, thanks for being here. Love that you're here. Anything you want to say? Brooke is an amazing, amazing coach. So she applies these same principles to money. So she's a money mindset coach, and she literally does the hypnosis, like all the different tools that we're talking about, but she applies that to money. And when so can you share your story real quick about money?
Sure. What exactly? Just,
well, like your path, like how about like the story of just leading up to you signing up to work with Alyssa, like where you were at.
Yeah, I grew up with a single mother who we lived in a trailer park, and my dad was just kind of a blue collar worker and wasn't around him that much. But so we had cockroaches running around. It was like a whole thing. And I'm a therapist, so I did 7 years of psychotherapy to become a therapist and to also just for myself, and could never get past that money like block of I could never make enough money. And so, I mean, what I know now is that it was deeply rooted in my subconscious mind that money was not for me, and it was patterned in my mind in that way. And I found Alyssa Nobrega. Long story short, I left therapy, got a divorce, which is why I left, and then ended up circling back to coaching, and found this amazing coach, Alyssa Nobrega, through a Facebook ad. Ended up at her house, and I literally had like, I don't know, like $900 in my bank account. I had just quit my job. I was scared out of my mind, didn't know how ends would meet the next month. And I signed up to work with her. Like, it was a $10,000 mastermind.
That was how when I met.
I just had I knew I needed a change, and it scared the living bejesus out of me, but like I needed to change. And so I borrowed money to make the first payment, and then I was like, well, I got to figure out the next payment now. And so it inspired me to launch my business, which I launched basically overnight, like last April. So we're in ending April 2020. I started April 2019, and quickly got to 6 figures within 6 months. And then that's where I met Leslie. And so that's been my story, my journey. And a lot of it was about changing these subconscious patterns through hypnosis, through other mindset tools, tapping, things like that, and making a commitment to it, like a daily practice, because you can quickly spiral back to your base level. And started working with Xander, and just been on a journey with you, Leslie.
I know. Brooke follows me to all the coaches that I
Thank
hire.
you. I love the applause.
And like literally,
so,
like, I'm surrounded every single day with, 40 some odd coaches, right? That all have this and all know these kinds of tools. And Brooke and I are the ones who are excelling the fastest. Like, we both broke in 6 figures super fast, like pretty much right away after we joined. And everybody's like, how are you guys doing this? Like, what are these 2 ladies doing? Like, they like fight for our attention. They're like messaging us and whatever. And it's like, we're teaching them to do the same things that I'm teaching my clients to do. And that Brooke's teaching of the mindset work, the hypnosis, it's all of that stuff. It's the subconscious. 95% of the results that you're getting is what's in the subconscious. So it's like, literally anything is possible. You just have to become aware of the answer for all of that is in the feelings that are in your body, right? And it's like, we numb those things out and we try to avoid them, but if you were to feel them and you were to heal that, like, that's when you just get results that are fantastic.
They're like magic, the way it works.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
So thanks.
So I had a logistical question, which is, does everybody know how to make play your hypnosis on Spotify?
So hit subscribe.
Okay.
And then I want you to take a screenshot.
I've done that. I put a picture on Instagram stories.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. And then if you share it with one person, then you're entered to win the.
Okay, I did that already.
Personal breakthrough session. Did you get everything that you needed from that logistical question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Social media is a mystery still.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else? Thanks for spending Friday with me, guys. Really appreciate that.
So fun.
The last thing, I should have said this earlier. So I did a free training. Okay, bear with me. It's not the best. I'm reading in it and whatever, but the content's great. But if you can get it's a hypnosis for weight loss webinar training. So it's lesliemthornton.com/weight loss webinar. So forgive me for the video. I'm going to reshoot it. Don't judge me for that. Just listen to the context. You'll get on my email list, and then I'm still going to be sending out different stuff about the podcast and keeping you updated on all this kind of stuff as we go along. So some of you are still already on that email list, but feel free. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to hit play on this one more time. We're just going to end it out with the song, okay? Hold on. It's just going to be the song. I think I can do this good, right? Can you hear it?
Oh, where's Ralphie?
Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Ralphie, come here.
What do you guys think of the song I picked? I like it.
I like it.
Relaxing,
Yeah, I like it.
kind of chill.
Can't hear it though.
There's the, oh, you can't.
All right.
What are you drinking,
Bye,
Les?
everyone.
The lemonade.
All right, take care.
What are you drinking, Les? A margarita?
Bye.
It's a lemonade. Twisted lemonade.
Oh, lemonade. Take it easy on that stuff.